Welcome to Sauk Valley Media's Pigskin Primer for Week 3 of the high school football season. I'm sports editor Dan Waisner alongside assistant sports editor Christopher Heimerman. We are at Hinders Field, site of this week's game of the week between the Rockford Rockets and the Rockford Lutheran Crusaders. Before we get to that, we'll talk a little bit about Week 2. Chris, you had the weekend duty at Roscoe Eads. It started out with a workmanlike effort by the Golden Warriors in a victory over Curie.
Frankly, it got kind of boring in the second half, and that's a credit to Sterling. Sterling's ability to really prevent any big plays after they gave it the long screen pass at the end of the first half. They made it 14-7, Sterling. But in the second half, they basically just they made it a little bit of a snooze fest, and that's a credit to Schlemmer and the ball club that he's coaching. He's 2-0 as a high school head football coach, and I'm really impressed with the field that his players have for the game. I'm impressed with the way that they carry themselves out there and the fact that they made the plays when they absolutely had to. And then on the flip side, Saturday night,
the exclamation point on Week 2 was the Newman-Morrison game Saturday night.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about a fun game, and for the first 2.5 quarters or so, if you don't like smash mouth football, if you don't like grinded out football, probably it wasn't for you. But then, as so often is the case in this series between Newman and Morrison, things got a little crazy down the stretch. Morrison on the last drive of the game putting the ball in the air, 52-yard touchdown pass about all the way back for a chop block call, and both sidelines had some differing opinions about whether there was a chop block, but ultimately that's called back. Morrison picks itself up off the mat, marches back down the field, loses on a field goal that came up just short. But you had some riverboat gambling by Corey Bielema going for it a couple times on 4th down. And you had Mike Paposi not entirely impressed with the effort from his comments throughout the course of the game. Kind of unusual for that matchup, but they did just enough to improve to 2-0, while Morrison is a very strong 1-1. Rock Falls goes to the suburbs twice and comes away with a victory. Again, another strong 1-1 record. And looking at what these teams have done so far, you see so many big plays. I think this has potential to be one of the more exciting games that we're going to see this season in the Sauk Valley. And I think it really comes down to Rock Falls discipline. Something that in the past you've had some criticism of the Rockets' ability to play sound football and be disciplined. But this year we're seeing it. We're definitely seeing a very different Rockets ball club. And as long as they're disciplined, they contain and make sure that they keep the play in front of them, I think Rock Falls has a pretty good chance to win this football game. You look at Alex Leaf, who's been an absolute special teams monster so far this year, and it hasn't just been the Crusaders lighting up the big plays. Rock Falls is doing it too, holding Marengo to 3 points. 3 points. I'm excited about it. I'm feeling very grateful that I'll get a chance to come out here and cover the football game. And I'm looking forward to Rock Falls improving to 2-1 by scoring a 34-28 victory over the Crusaders.
It'll be interesting. One thing to note is the Crusaders lost their starting quarterback in the first half of last week's game to Genoa Kingston. Haven't heard any updates if he's going to play, but the backup comes in and throws for 160-some yards. So I'm not sure there's going to be a huge fall-off, even though Jake Milburn is a 3-year starter. Kendall Lawson seems like he's a kid that can take over. For me, it's the same. I think the winner of this game, it's along the line of scrimmage with passing teams. If your defensive line controls that line of scrimmage and creates problems, that passing game suddenly doesn't look so good. You start seeing some picks, you start seeing overthrows, sacks, those sort of things, negative plays. I think Rock Falls' line has shown ability to take control of games. I pick Rock Falls winning this one 30-27. I think we should almost do an over-under on the total score. I would put it at about 55 and see what kind of action we get on that. But overall, that's what I see from this week.
Dan, Rockford Lutheran, 7 scoring plays of 44 yards or more last week against Genoa Kingston. Rock Falls, through 2 games, 3 of their 6 scores have been 60 yards or more. Get your popcorn ready. This one's going to be fun.
And don't forget to check it out Saturday morning. We'll have interviews, action on SaukValley.com. And now back to the office for the other guys who will be talking about some of the other big games this week.
See you at the games.
This is Ty Reynolds, sports writer at Sauk Valley Media, previewing this weekend's Newman versus Bureau Valley game in Sterling. Bureau Valley and Newman are two of the three teams tied atop the Big Rivers Conference at 2-0 records. Amboy is the third. They will meet on the new turf at Roscoe Weed Stadium. Offense looks to be the name of the game for both teams. Bureau Valley is averaging almost 4.5 yards per carry. They have thrown the ball for 376 yards and run the ball for 398 yards. Very balanced, led by Tyler Barnes, who plays quarterback for him. He's run for 110 yards and thrown for 350. Look for them to exploit the passing game against Newman, who is traditionally good against the run, since that's what they see in practice every day. Newman, on the other hand, obviously doing it through the ground. They have 404 yards rushing through the first two games. It's 5.3 yards per carry. Bureau Valley is allowing 3.2 yards per carry, so something's going to have to give there. Newman obviously has beat St. Bede and Morrison, two of the teams most believe will be at the top of the conference most of the year. Bureau Valley has beaten Hall and Kewanee. I don't really know what that says. Strength of schedule probably favors Newman a little bit in that case. Bureau Valley also has three 100-yard rushers, and Christian Connick and Tommy Johnson have also cleared the 100-yard barrier. Newman just has one. Brian Bars has been the workhorse. He's got 187 yards. But Nick Root is the kind of the two of the 1-2 punch, and he's almost at 100 yards with 91. Newman has won 6 of the last 11. Teams have been very even. Newman has won the last 2. Bureau Valley won the 2 before that. So serious history, not really. It's really pretty much of a toss-up. I'm going to have to go with Newman in this one. It's going to be close. I think the defenses are going to take it as a challenge to step up and stop the opposing offense. I just like Newman's physicality a little bit better than Bureau Valley's. I'm going to take Newman in an 18-14 score.
This is Sauk Valley Media sports writer Larry Brennan discussing the upcoming Dixon at Yorkville Friday night football contest. Northern Illinois Big 12 crossover clash. Dixon comes in 0-2. Yorkville is 1-1. Be a 7:30 ball game at Yorkville Friday night. First ever meeting between the two schools. Dixon has lost a heartbreaking 21-20 decision in its opener with United Township, and last week lost 49-21 at Rochelle in a game where Dixon lineman Jared Fry was ejected, and he will have to sit out this week because of that ejection. Yorkville has opened the season with a 49-0 loss at Ottawa, and last week bounced back with a 41-6 win over Aurora East. Yorkville is coached by second-year coach Carl Hoinks, who is a Hall of Famer, led Oswego to state titles in 1992 and 2003. And I am going to take Yorkville in a 31-17 victory this week over Dixon.
This is Brian Weidman. I'm a sports reporter for Sauk Valley Media, and I will be talking about the Sterling against Caneland game Friday night, 7:30 in Maple Park. It is a renewal of a nice recent rivalry that Sterling's had. They played in 2006 in a memorable playoff game. Caneland won 52-45. Sterling returned the favor 2 years later, 23-21. Both of those were in the Class 5A playoffs. This will be their first regular season meeting. Caneland is 2-0 in this season. They've defeated Chicago Brooks in a surprisingly close 25-24 game. Last week they beat Huntley 52-35. Caneland always has a high-powered quarterback. This year is no exception. Junior Drew David, last week he was 23 for 40, 338 yards and 4 touchdowns against Huntley. Last year as a sophomore he threw for 2,400 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Caneland's real flashy. They like to throw the ball a lot. Sterling is primarily a running team. This year, their main thing that they're doing, they're avoiding penalties, they're avoiding turnovers, and that is the main reason why they have defeated Moline and Chicago Curie the first 2 weeks of the season. This week, it's my prediction is they will win a close game over Caneland. I'll go 28-21.